Everything begins with Adlet, an ordinary-looking boy wandering through a huge city until he notices a massive crowd gathering for the kingdom's most important annual combat tournament, where two finalists are fighting with everything they have to prove their strength. But while everyone watches the sacred ritual, Adlet casually walks straight past the guards and steps right between the finalists, shocking the entire arena as he calmly announces that the rules have changed, because now they must fight him if they want to prove anything, since they are standing before the strongest man in the entire world. The finalists get furious at his arrogance and command guards to seize him, but in seconds Adlet throws a storm of darts that knocks every guard unconscious, leaving the fighters stunned. And when they both charge at him in anger, Adlet moves so fast they can't even touch him. Then he throws smoke grenades that cover the entire arena in thick fog, uses the chaos to appear behind one warrior, captures him with a sudden explosion, and knocks him out instantly, while the second warrior screams on the ground after stepping on sharp poisoned nails Adlet had secretly placed earlier. And with both fighters defeated, Adlet raises his voice toward the goddess's statue, demanding that she acknowledge him as one of the 6 legendary heroes. But before he can say more guards rush in, seize him, and drag him away as the crowd boos him for ruining a sacred ceremony. Days later, he sits in a cell, completely unapologetic, which only irritates the guards more. But after they leave, a cheerful girl enters, smiling brightly and admitting she saw his fight and wants to know why he calls himself the strongest man alive, since by reputation, Nashania is considered the strongest of all. But Adlet insists that he would definitely defeat her. They talk about the Saint of the Flower, a warrior who lived many years ago and defeated the demon god, prophesying that the demon god would one day return and 6 warriors would appear, carrying her power to put him back into his slumber. To identify the chosen heroes, a flower mark appears somewhere on their body whenever they are selected, as it has happened many times before. Although this time the potential candidates are being brutally murdered by strange doll-like creatures, the maid tells Adlet to stay put until his wounds heal because the prison is extremely secure. Later, he is transferred to a different prison and sentenced to life imprisonment. Days pass, and he finally recovers completely. But just on the day he plans to escape, a deep red light covers the world, a clear sign that the demon god has awakened. At that exact moment, a flower mark appears on Adlet's hand, proving without a doubt that he is one of the chosen heroes. He announces the news loudly through his cell bars, and right then Princess Nashania appears. Adlet realizes she is the same girl who visited him earlier, disguised as a maid so she could talk to him, and she too has been chosen as a hero. She helps him escape, and together they leave the prison to head toward their destiny, to face the demon god and find the other chosen heroes. First, they stop at Adlet's hideout so he can collect his gear and armor, then they continue their journey. Adlet ends up paying for the fruits Nashania grabs without paying, since she's so used to royal treatment that she even admits she once thought fruits literally grew on plates. She's excited about the adventure and even gets carried away, attacking Adlet playfully, annoying him, then apologizing, and then annoying him again when she tells a sad story from her past while pretending to be emotional even though she doesn't actually care. Adlet dislikes this attitude because they are supposed to fight the demon god, a serious task, and her behavior feels inappropriate. Still, they continue traveling together, and later while camping she opens up for real this time, explaining that after a civil war broke out in her father's kingdom, her father lost power and became practically a puppet king. Many relatives cut ties with her, not wanting to be associated with someone who might start another civil war. She feels grateful toward Adlet because he treats her like an equal, which is why she trusted him enough to share her past, including how her father had ordered her execution, forcing her to live as a fugitive until she was named the Goddess of Blades. Since then, she promised herself to do everything possible so no one would have to sleep in fear of dying, and that is why she wants to defeat the demon god. After the night passes, they reach Brendanby to find another potential hero, Goldov Paura, who once fought Nashania and intentionally let her win at the last second, something that definitely hurt her pride. On the way, they discuss the disappearances of the potential heroes, who are assumed to be victims of whoever is killing them, since all the candidates are extremely powerful warriors capable of defeating normal demons, which makes it strange that they are dying so easily. They suspect someone else is behind it, especially since Ryura, the Saint of the Sun, has been missing for a month, and she was the previous hero. This makes Nashania tense, unable to understand who is behind all this, but one thing is certain: eventually, they will have to face the hero killer themselves. Adlet remembers one of his master's teachings: he must always smile. So he tries to cheer up Nashania and succeeds, but the good mood doesn't last long because suddenly, terrified villagers appear, running away from something. Both heroes get off their horses and ask what happened, and the villagers explain they are being attacked by monsters and barely escaped, leaving many people behind. Adlet suspects it might be a trap set by the hero killer, since they are the real targets, but he refuses to abandon innocent people. Together with Nashania, he heads toward the monsters and defeats them easily, thanks to all the training he received from his master. He leaves Nashania behind to guard the villagers since she is inexperienced in that type of combat, and she gratefully promises to become more useful from now on. After securing the villagers, one of them says a traveler was left behind, alarming Adlet, who prepares to return return to the village, but Nashania stops him, reminding him they can't save everyone. They must choose between continuing their path to meet the other heroes or wasting time returning to save just one civilian. Even so, Adlet goes back, leaving Nashania with the villagers, who are soon attacked again by more monsters that she must fight alone. Adlet reaches the village and sees it completely destroyed by the monster attack. He notices many corpses with strange bullet-like holes, realizing the traveler didn't stay behind by accident but intentionally. He then spots a small albino woman holding a puppy and approaching what seems to be the puppy's mother. She gently puts them together and frees them so they can live safely, since monsters only attack humans. Adlet reveals himself to talk to her, but she becomes extremely cautious, even pointing her weapon at him. Adlet quickly tells her he is one of the heroes chosen to. Just like she can sense his strength, he can also tell by her abilities that she is incredibly talented. Yet she keeps pointing her weapon at him because she clearly sees him as a threat, an assassin planning to kill her. She introduces herself as Flamie Speedrun, the Saint of Gunpowder, right after he introduces himself. Meanwhile, back on the battlefield, Nashania manages to defeat the remaining monsters but loses her precious horse in the process. Goldof Power arrives and treats Nashania with extreme formality, something that annoys her, because within the group of heroes they are all supposed to be equals, yet Goldof still insists on treating her like a princess he must protect at all costs. She takes the chance to ask him whether he knows anything about the hero killer, and Goldof firmly states that according to a crucial clue, the killer is a human girl, a sharpshooter named Flamie Speedrun. Flamie tells Adlet that she alone plans to defeat the demon god, so she has no intention of joining the other heroes because she wants to handle everything on her own, something Adlet sees as a terrible idea, since the heroes must fight together to succeed. She tries to leave so he'll stop bothering her, but it doesn't work because Adlet keeps following her, beginning a long chase that leaves both of them exhausted until they cross paths again. Adlet uses the moment to remind her that the only way to defeat the demon god is by working as a team, but she refuses completely because she knows that if she joins the other heroes, they will try to kill her. Adlet doesn't understand anything, but when she tries to run again, he throws a smoke bomb to stun her, using the confusion to take her bullets away while insisting that since he is the strongest man in the world, he will protect her because she is one of the heroes and therefore his companion. She hesitates for a moment, even considering shooting him, but in the end, she lowers her weapon and agrees to follow for now. Nashania tries to fight the remaining monsters, but Goldof stops her, eliminating the creatures before they can even touch the princess, because to him, her safety is the top priority. Goldof is not happy that Adlet has joined the group, but he hides it because he notices that the princess likes Adlet, even though Adlet has a bad reputation for being a coward who used dirty tricks in the tournament. Through a letter, Adlet informs Nashania that he went to follow the other heroine and will reunite with them later, so their paths separate for now. On the other side, Adlet tries to start a conversation with Flamie, but she is a quiet girl, very honest, who has no problem expressing her dislike for several traits she sees in him, including his arrogance and attitude. Still, she tells him that if the time ever comes when they must fight each other, he shouldn't kill her, injure her badly if he must, but not finish her off. Adlet insists he would rather fight side by side with her instead of against her. As they travel, he observes from a distance the place they are heading to, the location where the demon god must be defeated, and notices a fortress that gives him a very bad feeling, so he speeds up with Flamie following him. She warns that if another hero is inside, she will run away immediately, so Adlet gives her back her ammunition. As they head toward the fortress, Adlet complains about how hot the area is. The remaining guards greet them, though only a few survive the previous monster attack that killed most of the soldiers, including their general. One guard explains that the general had prepared a method in case the demon god awakened, with the help of the Saint of Mist, a barrier that could protect the civilians from monsters once the heroes entered the temple to fight the demon god. Everything the guard explains is to tell them that one of the heroines is already waiting inside the temple where the barrier will be activated. The guard admits he doesn't know how much longer he can hold back the monsters, so he teaches Adlet how to activate the barrier. Adlet trusts the man's determination and encourages him, something the guard seems to appreciate as he promises to do everything in his power, even if it costs his life. Adlet and Flamie leave the fortress and head toward the temple. Flamie silently worries about the situation, because if she goes there, she risks exposing herself to the other heroes like Nashania, and the heroine waiting inside Adlet reassures her that he will protect her if the others try to hurt her, and his kindness is so ridiculous that Flamie bluntly admits it makes her want to kill him, a comment that completely stuns him and leaves him speechless. Before he can respond, a dagger suddenly flies toward Flamie, but Adlet pushes her out of the way just in time. The attacker is Nashania, who found them and immediately tries to kill Flamie because, according to the information Goldof gave her, Flamie is the murderer of the heroes. Goldof also attacks her, but Adlet stops him, while Flamie continues fighting Nashania and proudly tells her that when, just as the others would see her as a threat and attack her immediately. Goldof and Nashania both try to strike Flamie, but they fail because Adlet keeps interfering, stopping Flamie's bullets from hitting them and preventing their attacks from hurting her until he finally finally manages to stop the whole fight. Nashania then uses the silence to explain that Flamie is the assassin responsible for killing all the potential candidates to become heroes, a truth Flamie herself had already confirmed, saying she did it all to help revive the demon god. Adlet demands to know the real reason behind her actions, and warns that if they ever try to fight Flamie again, he will take her side. He leaves Nashania with only two choices: fight him or follow his orders, and she chooses to follow him because she trusts his judgment, even though both Flamie and Goldov believe she is making a big mistake. After the clash, they are finally able to move without fighting, although no one except Adlet trusts Flamie. The group heads toward the temple where the other heroine is waiting, but along the way they see a flying monster dropping bombs on the temple. At the same time, countless monsters emerge to delay them and keep them from reaching the temple in time. Even though they could defeat them, it would slow them down, so they decide that Adlet should run ahead while the others stay behind to fight. When Adlet arrives, he sees the door closed, so he uses explosives to break it open. Suddenly, without any warning, the barrier activates by itself, trapping both the heroes and the monsters, because the barrier cannot be passed from inside or outside. When the others arrive, they assume Adlet activated it, but he insists he did not. Everyone panics because if they remain trapped, they will never be able to fight the demon god. Nashania becomes so frustrated that she breaks one of the stone tablets in the altar before Flamie stops her. Then, a small girl appears, Kamot Rosso, the saint of the swamp. She recognizes everyone except Adlet, who proudly introduces himself as the strongest man in the world, causing her to think he's nothing but an arrogant fool. Kamot immediately suggests killing Flamie because she is the assassin who murdered the hero candidates. The group refuses, causing a small uproar that catches the attention of the saint of the mountains, Mora Chester, Kamot's grandmother. She calms Kamot down, but now a bigger problem appears. There are too many heroes in the room. One of them is an impostor. Before they arrived, Mora had found Hans Humpty, another chosen hero. Everyone shows their flower marks. There are 7 chosen instead of 6, even though the saint of the flower always divided her power into exactly 6 parts to give to 6 worthy warriors who could defeat the demon god. So having a 7th chosen at the same time is completely impossible. Hans and Adlet check the barrier and confirm it works perfectly, meaning they are fully trapped when they return to the temple. They find Flamie handcuffed by Goldov, something Adlet dislikes immediately. No one understands what is happening or why there are 7 heroes, so they begin a short interrogation about how each of them was chosen and their pasts. The most notable are Hans, who reveals he is an assassin, and especially Flamie, who when removing her eye patch shows not only an incomplete demon horn, but also a strange eye, revealing she is the daughter of a human and a monster, raised to be a weapon meant to kill heroes. But at some point in her life, she realized something that made her choose to kill the demon god instead. Everyone suspects Flamie, but she shifts the suspicion onto Mora, and soon everyone is accusing everyone else. The tension keeps rising until the suspicion falls on Adlet himself, because Hans points out inconsistencies in his story and immediately calls him out, planting more doubts in everyone. Now, they all look at Adlet as the most likely culprit. Adlet desperately tries to defend himself from the accusations thrown at him, but even when he tells the truth, every word he says is countered and turned against him, cornering him even more. The only one who believes in him without hesitation is Nashania, who is absolutely certain he is not the traitor. Kamot and Hans are ready to attack him, but Mora stops them, insisting on judging Adlet fairly and giving him a chance to prove his innocence. Still, she cannot convince the others. So Mora suggests hearing everyone's votes to decide Adlet's fate. Because there is no solid proof, Hans and Kamot suggest either killing him or torturing him. Flamie abstains because she doesn't care what happens to him. Nashania defends him, even begging Goldov to support her. But Goldov, who prioritizes her safety, instead attacks Adlet. Adlet blocks the attack and grabs Flamie, knocking her into a coma with one of his poisons. That act convinces everyone he must be the real traitor. He uses Flamie as a hostage to escape, but Hans throws a dagger into his back. The heroes chase him, but Adlet leaves traps behind to slow them down. Losing too much blood and exhausted from running, he eventually collapses unconscious. Mora and Hans continue searching until nightfall, when Mora decides to stop because they don't know what tricks Adlet could use against them in the dark. Hans insists on searching because Adlet might kill Flamie, so Mora asks to see his hero mark to confirm he still has all 6 petals, since the flower loses a petal whenever a hero dies, a way to check whether all teammates are still alive. Meanwhile, the unconscious Adlet dreams of his past, back when his family was still alive and life was still peaceful, blending the memories of his past with what happened afterward, something that forced him to search for the master who trained him to fight monsters and defeat the demon god, a man whose very first lesson was that he must smile, even laugh in the face of despair. His dream ends abruptly, and he wakes up exactly where he collapsed, his wound now bandaged, and beside him he sees Flamie already awake. Apparently, she was the one who healed him. Even so, she makes it clear she still doesn't trust him and even considers the possibility that he might be the 7th hero. They talk, and Flamie shares her point of view about the recent events. Adlet repeats multiple times that he is innocent and even gives a strong argument to support it. He has now realized that if one of the 7 heroes is an impostor, then there must also be an 8th person working alongside that impostor, helping them, because he believes those two are collaborating with the demons and their real plan is to make the heroes fight each other. This is something Flamie had never considered, and even she is a little impressed by Adlet's determination. She then asks him why he wants to become one of the 6 petal heroes, because she still finds it strange that someone so ordinary could become so strong. Adlet explains that his master locked him up in the mountains and trained him obsessively for years because he was completely fixated on killing monsters, and that was how he created new weapons and strategies. Flamie recognizes that name, Aatrox Speaker, an old man whose training style was so brutal that most students who visited him ran away because they couldn't handle it. Adlet survived because he had a strong reason. When he was young, his village was visited by a huge talking monster that convinced the village chief to move everyone into the demon god's territory, claiming the humans had no chance this time and would only be safe under demon protection. Flamie realizes the monster he is describing must have been a hybrid creature created by one of the 3 leaders of the monster race. That monster had ordered that all rebels who refused to move to demon lands be executed and their hearts delivered as a sign of loyalty. This caused chaos, and during the conflict, Adlet lost his best friend, who tried to protect him, and his sister, who helped him escape. His sincerity triggers something inside Flamie. She admits that she is doing all of this because she was raised by monsters who pretended to love her and care for her, but in truth, she was only a puppet meant to serve their plans when she had to run away from Kamot because Kamot was too strong. Flamie's own mother tried to kill her because she considered Flamie useless for the Demon King's mission. That betrayal hurt her so deeply that she now wants not only to kill her mother but also to destroy the demon god's plan entirely. After all, her mother had raised her like a real daughter and even allowed her to adopt a small dog, which is why Flamie loves animals so much. She once adored the demon god and her demon family, but she realized it was all a lie, just like Adlet, who also fights out of revenge and wants to destroy the demon god. Adlet fully believes her story, which only makes Flamie hate him even more for trusting her so easily. Adlet insists that they are similar in many ways and sees a part of himself reflected in her. Flamie keeps saying she doesn't believe him at all and is still convinced he is the 7th hero, but she still leaves him a special bomb that will help him signal his location. Even so, she warns him that if he throws the bomb, it does not mean she will come to help him. She might come to kill him instead. She returns to the temple and lies, saying she tried to capture Adlet, but he escaped. Her explanation does not convince Hans at all, who points out how suspicious it is that Adlet always worried about her, and now she happens to be defending him, so he suspects she is covering for him. Nashania silences him, clearly angry at every accusation thrown at Adlet. Mora decides they must split up to cover more ground in the search. She leaves Hans alone at the temple while she goes with Flamie, and Nashania and Goldov go in another direction. Kamot insists on wanting to play for a bit, something her grandmother doesn't forbid. Because she is still a child, Nashania asks Goldov to help her find solid proof to show Adlet's innocence, because she truly believes he is not the culprit, and her eyes are locked onto Hans as the most suspicious. Adlet has no choice but to return to the temple because most of his equipment is there and he needs it to defend himself. Hans, expecting him, attacks immediately and tries to kill him, forcing Adlet to fight. Sadly, Adlet is quickly cornered. Before delivering the final blow, Hans interrogates him, asking whether he came here for a lover or for money. He demands a reason. Adlet repeats that he is not the impostor, and to prove it, he creates a plan to trap Hans, managing to throw him off balance long enough to open a perfect chance to strike. But Adlet purposely misses the killing blow just to show his innocence, because that moment was the perfect opportunity to kill Hans if he really were the traitor. But obviously he would never kill a fellow 6-petal hero like Hans. Hans pretends to believe him, but it is all part of an act, because in Adlet's mind he suddenly sees Hans as the 7th hero, taking advantage of the moment when Adlet is unarmed to kill him, or at least that is what Adlet imagines, because Hans is using illusion tricks. As an expert assassin, Hans knows that there is no person more honest than someone at the edge of death, and Adlet's reaction is enough to prove that he was truly telling the truth. So Hans clears him. He is not the 7th hero, but they still need to find out who the real imposter is. Mora is taken by Flamie to the last place where Adlet had fainted, and they take the chance to rethink everything. Mora believes everything Adlet did was carefully planned, so they must be cautious when searching for him, and she warns Flamie not to show him mercy even if he once defended and helped her. Flamie insists she truly hates Adlet. Nashania continues to look for evidence of Adlet's innocence. Goldov, consumed by jealousy, questions her harshly, demanding to know why she cares so much about proving Adlet innocent. She simply says he is her companion, and she cannot let him be killed unfairly. Hans returns to the temple with Adlet to look for clues about who activated the barrier, but as expected, they find nothing. Adlet thinks carefully and realizes everyone knew how to activate the barrier except Hans and Kamot. So he wants to question the little girl, believing she might hold a crucial answer. But when he finds her, she doesn't care about finding the imposter. She just wants to kill him, and nothing else matters to her anymore, making the liquid swirl as it reacts only to the presence of demon traces, and when Adlet throws it toward Flamie, the poison does not react at all, proving that she has absolutely no connection to the monsters. Mora is shocked, but refuses to accept defeat, insisting that Adlet must be manipulating the results. But Adlet firmly declares that Flamie is innocent, and that if they want to kill someone, they should come after him instead. Mora becomes furious and prepares to use her most powerful mountain-shaking magic, but Flamie steps forward, blocking her path, declaring that she will no longer let anyone harm Adlet. This leaves Mora completely stunned, while Hans, watching from a distance after slipping away from Kamot, quietly mutters that everything is becoming far too complicated. Meanwhile, Nashania, still trembling from her earlier breakdown, rushes toward the temple with Goldov right behind her, tears in her eyes and rage boiling in her chest. At the same time, Kamot, bored of waiting, decides she wants to play again and summons her monstrous swamp creatures, creating chaos that forces Hans to keep dodging as he tries to reach the others back in the forest. The tension between Flamie and Adlet reaches its breaking point as Adlet shouts that even if the whole world calls him a traitor, he will protect Flamie until his last breath, because she deserves a life beyond pain and betrayal. Flamie's hands tremble around her gun as Mora screams that Adlet is using manipulative words to weaken her resolve, but Flamie herself doesn't know what to believe anymore. Her heart is confused, her mind torn between the instinct to protect herself and the strange warmth she feels whenever Adlet talks to her. Before they can resolve anything, a thunderous explosion shakes the ground. Kamot's swamp beasts have broken through the outer walls of the temple and now charge toward everyone in sight. The barrier, still active, begins pulsing violently as if reacting to the overwhelming presence of the heroes gathered. Adlet realizes instantly that this is exactly what the impostor wanted. Chaos, confusion, panic, the perfect conditions to ensure the heroes destroy each other before even reaching the demon god. Knowing time is running out, Adlet shouts to Flamie that they must reach the heart of the temple and shut off the barrier from inside before the entire structure collapses. Mora refuses to believe him and attacks again, but Flamie intercepts her, forcing Mora to retreat a few steps as the two clash. Hans finally arrives and confirms what Adlet suspected earlier. The activation device for the barrier was tampered with from the inside, meaning the impostor must be someone who had access before everyone arrived. Mora panics, realizing that this information turns suspicion back toward her, and in anger she tries to silence Hans. Adlet grabs Flamie's hand and pulls her toward the temple entrance, yelling that if they don't act now, everyone, even the innocent villagers outside, will die trapped inside a barrier that will soon crush everything. Flamie hesitates, but then runs with him, her heart racing, while behind them Kamot's beasts roar. Mora screams in rage, Hans dodges in frustration, Nashania cries in betrayal, and Goldov grits his teeth with jealousy. The chaos grows louder, the barrier glows brighter, and Adlet tightens his grip on Flamie's hand, whispering that no matter who the impostor is, they will survive, together, and they will stop the demon god no matter the cost. He tests it with a special bullet Flamie gave him, a bullet that turns red whenever it touches anything tainted by monsters. He then uses that same poison to coat the mechanism that activates the barrier, and since the device does not react, it proves that Flamie never touched that area. For a moment, Adlet even considers that Mora might be the real seventh hero, and if that were true, she would surely kill him next and then frame Flamie afterward. Mora hesitates briefly, realizing that Adlet is far more dangerous than she thought, because with tricks like these, he could convince the others, so eliminating him quickly would be the safest option. Just before she can strike the final blow, Adlet's only concern is Flamie's safety. He tells her that if he dies, she must go to Hans, because he is someone trustworthy. Flamie is stunned that even while facing death, his only worry is her. Her body moves on its own, and she shoots at Mora to stop her from killing Adlet. Flamie admits she absolutely hates Adlet because every time he speaks, he makes her trust him again, even though she swore she would never trust anyone ever again so she wouldn't be betrayed. Flamie is half human, so of course she has human feelings. Mora warns her that this is just another trick of Adlet, but Flamie still defends him, buying him time to escape while she holds Mora back. Adlet doesn't want to leave her behind, but suddenly they are attacked by a third party. Nashania arrives with Goldov, ready to kill Adlet. She even thanks him for their journey together because it allowed her to learn many things she never knew while living trapped inside a castle, and now that she has thanked him properly, she can kill him without mercy. Flamie sees that Nashania's mental state is clearly unstable and tells Adlet to run while she protects him, but while she attacks the rabbit-like princess, Goldov moves to protect Nashania. When Goldov goes in to strike Flamie, Adlet saves her, and the two protect each other from every attack. Mora steps in and decides she will deal with Flamie while the princess and Goldov attack Adlet, but Flamie refuses to let them, blocking their advances so Adlet can escape. He has no choice but to run, though he hates leaving her alone. Nashania chases after him, attacking repeatedly and even managing to wound him badly and immobilize him. She prepares to deliver the killing blow even as Adlet insists he is not the traitor. Because of his unbreakable will, he avoids the final strike and counterattacks just enough to push her away, then escapes again. Goldov arrives shortly after, following the princess's order orders to track Adlet. Despite Adlet's heavy wounds, he continues running, but eventually, Goldov catches up easily and restrains him. Mora arrives with Flamie tied up and brings Nashania too. Both women still demand Adlet's death. Goldov suggests interrogating him, but both Mora and Nashania insist it's better to kill him immediately. Just then, Chamot appears with Hans, and Nashania is shocked to see Hans completely unharmed, which instantly exposes Mora's lie. Nashania is horrified, realizing she attacked Adlet based on a lie, and that his near-fatal injuries are her fault. Flamie breaks free and immediately runs to help Adlet. Mora still refuses to accept his innocence, but Adlet, seeing everyone together, decides it's time to reveal the full truth. He explains his deduction. The Saint of the Sun, Ryura, must have joined forces with the monsters and used her power to create a heat-based fog, using the natural humidity of the area to simulate the activation mist. That way, when Adlet opened the temple doors, everyone assumed the barrier activated, but in reality, the real culprit sneaked inside during that moment and triggered the barrier manually. Hans confirms this theory when he cuts open the stomach of a strange monster that appeared earlier. Inside, they find Ryura's corpse. Even then, Mora refuses to accept she was wrong and accuses Adlet of orchestrating everything. But every piece of evidence proves the opposite, and she is forced to admit that Adlet is not the seventh hero. Even so, the real impostor is still among them. Adlet, weakened but standing, insists that it wasn't Nashania or Flamie. Suddenly, Chamot interrupts, saying she found a box under the temple with 2 tablets and a sword. One tablet was fake and the other contained clear instructions on how to activate and deactivate the barrier, including the rule that the used tablet must be broken before inserting the other one. Chamot asks Adlet if he knows who broke the tablet, because that will reveal the true culprit. Both Flamie and Adlet recognize that Nashania is responsible, though Adlet struggles to accept it. After thinking carefully, he remembers that she was the one who suggested he go to the temple, making him fall directly into the trap. While she activated the barrier, Nashania begs Adlet to defend her, insisting she is not guilty. Goldov steps in front of her to protect her, but then, unexpectedly, Nashania surrenders and admits she is the 7th hero. She underestimated Adlet, thinking she could easily eliminate at least 2 heroes before being discovered, so she grew careless. The revelation devastates Goldov, but he still swears loyalty to her. Mora demands to know her motives. Nashania explains she truly wanted real peace, a world where the demon god, monsters, and humans could live together, so she planned to revive the demon god. She intended to kill him afterward, but she believed only through revival could she change the world. She begs the heroes to withdraw and let her handle the demon god herself, but they refuse because the cost she calculated was 500,000 innocent civilian lives. The heroes attack Nashania, but whenever they damage her, her body dissolves into mud with a sweet apple scent, a powerful monster technique. The others follow her trail, while Flamie stays with Adlet, who collapses from exhaustion and blood loss. She admits that since she met him, she finally wants to live. Adlet later wakes up in the temple being healed by Mora, who apologizes for suspecting him. He doesn't care and immediately asks about Nashania. Hans explains that once the fog and barrier disappeared, she escaped. Goldov hasn't spoken since, isolating himself because he loves her and cannot bear the idea of fighting her. Adlet goes to find Flamie, who avoids him because she needs time to understand her feelings. Since the fog is gone, anyone can now enter the temple, and Rolonia, the Saint of Blood, arrives wearing the same 6-petal crest Nashania had, making their group 7 again, or technically 8. A nearby king arrives to warn them that a massive monster army is approaching. The heroes debate whether to stay and fight or retreat. Adlet tells the king to reactivate the barrier in 30 minutes and only open it again once they defeat the demon god. With Adlet confirmed as a true hero, the others trust his leadership and follow his plan as they head toward Makoku, the land where the demon god awaits. Only heroes protected by the Saint of the Flower can survive its poisonous atmosphere, so they are the only ones who can enter. Now they must face the demon god, even though the anime was never truly about defeating him, but about finding the impostor. In the end, no one really knows who or what they are anymore. If you like this story, subscribe to support the channel.